Hello, 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 and welcome to 20 Years with a Narcissist. I'm your host, Shakira, and I would like to start with words of affirmations. You are whole, you are complete, you are enough. You are strong, you are brave, you are resilient. You are indeed guided, you are protected, and you are safe. And this here is a safe space. I would like to continue on with manipulation because it is a very vast subject to touch base on. I am getting the information that I'm giving to you all from a book that I read called The Narcissist Playbook by Dana Morningstar. And she goes on to say what manipulation is and what it is not. So, of course, we're going to start with what it actually is. Yes, I have given you the definition of the word, but let's break that down, shall we? So, manipulation is a slow and steady imbalance of power. This imbalance occurs when fear, guilt, or obligation is leveraged over another person with the ultimate goal of getting their own way, which creates a suffocating tension as the direct or implied threat of being punished hangs off into the balance. Once the scales are in balance, the relationship becomes unhealthy if it ever was. Then comes the walking on eggshells or glass or whatever very uncomfortable thing nobody wants to walk upon. Hot coals comes about. And of course, there's no way you can have a healthy relationship if that's how you're feeling, correct? So, um, you know, when it comes to this thing called manipulation, like once you get a really good understanding of what it is, it's very easy to see it, if you will. And that's the goal of me doing this podcast. I just want you guys to be fully in the know as to what manipulation actually is. So, when you're walking on eggshells, there's this constant waiting for the shoe to drop or the mood to change or shift. You just never know when the manipulator is going to act in a way that's going to make you feel uncomfortable, right? So, when this extreme mood change occurs or inappropriate request is made, this is also the same as a boundary push. So, an inappropriate request, for example, one of my narcissistic relationships, because as I told you all, I've been in three, and I was actually in a throuple with my last manipulator, my last narc, and initially it started off pretty much him just wanting me and me being the wholesome, very respectful to other people's relationships, loyal to myself at the very least type of person. I refuse to allow myself to entertain or partake in anything with this narc outside of his wife's knowledge. Okay, yes, he was married, or is married. So it he then had no other choice. If he wanted to partake with any kind of relationship with me, he had to take the situation. He had to pretty much bring me up to his wife. He had to let his wife know about me. Hey, so there's this girl, and I like her, and I just was wondering if you would be okay if I took her on as a second wife. Because yes, we're all Muslim, right? It's the last religion that I partook in, even though I no longer practice it. I still, practice some of the ways about the religion. I do think the religion is a beautiful religion overall. The religion, as they say, is perfect, just the people aren't. And but I'm at a stage in my life where I don't want to live in any kind of a box. My 20 years with my narc, he was Muslim, and I'm going to get to how I reverted to Islam in the first place, because that's where I pick up on my story with my 20-year narc was in 2015. But he presented me as a second wife, and she of course was just not she wasn't okay with that at all. That's not something she was feeling comfortable about. It was just like, no. But we can have sexual relations with her. And for me, at the time, I was kind of in a space where I was looking for somebody that I could kind of get my rocks off with, if you will. I'm just going to be fully transparent. And because I'm in school is 17 months long. I don't have time, patience, or energy to give to a real and or healthy relationship for real. So if I could just lock in with somebody that I can trust, that I can be comfortable with, that can take care of my needs, I'll take care of theirs. We go our separate ways. Life is great. Like, where they at though? Like, come here real quick. Like, let's do this, right? So, um, when I was presented to his wife and she was okay with, us just having sexual relations, I was like, oh, okay. Because if you guys don't know, I am bisexual. I do love women as well. So with that being said, we partook in a relationship of that nature. Okay. But while not knowing that he was a narcissist at the time, I got love bombed, right? The same way that she ended up getting love bombed and fell in love with him and everything like that. He pretty much does that with every female that he encounters if he has a liking for you. So, during this love bombing phase, it, pretty much, uh, got to a point where I felt like I could see myself as their wife, not just his wife, but their wife, right? So I began to speak in that kind of a way, but wifey wasn't really all the way with that. Like she said, she invited me in for sexual relations alone, and she never really veered off of that. That's all it was going to be for her. But after I'm going to really delve into that relationship at a later date, but just to show a boundary push and making the target of manipulation feel in a way like, oh my goodness, what am I or getting myself involved in? Because now you're partaking in something that you either normally wouldn't, or that you didn't initiate, if you will, because she was with it. She was down with it. Like I said, it was her idea. But at the end of the day, he brought me to her, and at first it was an uncomfortable boundary push. And she probably thought to herself, well, you're going to be in school with her for the next X amount of months, over a year, and I'm not about to try to fight with you, compete with it, be sitting here thinking like, oh, you possibly doing something behind her back, on my back with her, so we going to do something with her together. Like, it's going to be a together thing, which I completely actually understood, putting myself in her shoes. But that boundary push, that is where the problem lies. Now you're partaking in something that you usually would not have, for the manipulator, so that he can get what he wants. And that is what you want to look out for. That is a telltale sign that you are being manipulated. Is this actually what you want? Is the question. And if not, then you're betraying yourself. And the last thing you want to do is betray yourself or start to lose who you are, because you're doing everything in your power to appease the manipulator, right? And manipulation, no matter how mild, if it's present in your relationship, it just like a spinning top, when it starts to slow down and then it's like wobble, 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 the relationship is going to wobble until it topples over. There's no way around it. If you are dating, in love with, in a relationship with a manipulator, eventually the top is going to topple over. It's no way around it. They may be the type, where they just really use you up to your bone dry, really take every single thing that they can possibly take from you before they discard you, before they, leave and end up with somebody else. They may start a whole new relationship with somebody else behind your back, and in their mind, they're done with you anyway. So if and or when you do find out, it's like, oh, okay, oh well, I was pretty much done with you, and I I didn't know the best way to go about discarding you, or so I just decided to let things play out and let the new one let you know, like, oh, he my man now, and so you can go ahead and scurry on along because we don't need you here. It happens in so many different ways. These manipulators and how they use you up, and the relationship ends up toppling over. But while manipulation comes in a variety of ways, the main component, the common denominator, is boundary pushing, which is why in my previous episodes I emphasize how important it is to set your boundaries and stand 10 toes on them. Because once you allow your boundaries to be pushed, the manipulator has won. Because soon as they push one, they just gonna keep pushing them all down like dominoes, until they own you, until they run you, until you 100% belong to them. Because I guarantee you, my last narc, he knows and believes in his heart and soul that his wife belongs to him, and she'll put up with whatever it is he comes with. Because after I left the relationship, he tried to bring other women to her. And she made the decision that if it wasn't going to be me, she didn't want it to be anyone. So now I believe she's under the impression that there isn't anyone. It's just them two having an awesome relationship. And that is indeed not the case at all. I get to witness him on a weekly basis indulge in with other women. But it's not my business to tell. I'm not going to stir the pot. I'm not going to call her up and let her know what's going on. No. I tried to warn you and let you know that this is what you were dealing with and why I'm getting out, and why, I'll never entertain, that situation ever again. But she's head over heels, and you people have to go through what they need to go through in order to learn a lesson that's needed to be learned within their own situation. So that's how we're going to leave that. But with the with manipulation, right, it's like a slow progressive. It's a progressive, and it grows with every push. Most targets, though, like I believe the wife is in the last situation that I was in, they're unaware that their boundaries are being pushed to an extent that the dynamic has now become one-sided. And it's so crazy because she's definitely intelligent enough to know, okay, yeah, I see it, okay, well, it is what it is, even if you kind of digest it in that way. But at the same time, you're allowing it. And as long as it's allowed, the manipulator is still winning. Whether you call yourself seeing it and being like, all right, well, it is what it is. I ain't dumb. I ain't stupid. I see it. I see that it's going on, or whatever the case. As long as you allow it, you're losing yourself. You are betraying yourself. You are not fulfilled. You are not satisfied within this relationship. You are not getting what you need out of it. You're just dealing with it. And is that the best and or healthiest way to go about life? Especially in a relationship with somebody that you love and care about? And what the manipulator does is, how you kind of like, give somebody just enough to keep them at bay and make it where they don't want to like literally run for the hills. That's what's occurring. So it's like, okay, he sees a need of hers and says, okay, let me take care of that need. You know what I'm saying? Oh, your back hurt. Let me order her this back brace or this neck pillow that's going to help her sleep more comfortably so that her neck doesn't hurt as bad as it's hurting. When in reality, the manipulation that's slowly progressing over time is actually what's deteriorating her from the inside out. And I believe that's the part she doesn't really see and recognize or realize is occurring. There's a slow decline in your health that is occurring because you are in a relationship with a narcissist. And as long as you allow yourself to be in a relationship with a narcissist, there will be a decline in your health. There's absolutely no way around it. But if you're going to, you know, stick in there, you're going to hang in there and stick it out, at least be armed. At least have the necessary tools and the best way to deal with said relationships for, the best possible outcome, if you will. So to jump back in on my story, I believe I left off where I had moved into a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath house in Southwest Philadelphia. Because I told my narc I was going to cheat on him. He was like, "No, you're not cheating. Go ahead and do you." And so I took that, and ran with it. I moved out September 2014. And then 2015, I would say, I'm trying to think what month he moved in. He wriggled his way right on back into my life. I believe I mentioned it in another episode, a previous episode, where he asked if he could use my enclosed porch as a storage space, because he no longer wanted to be in a relationship with the young lady he was dating because she was starting to act crazy, if you will. And, especially if you're young and immature and you're being manipulated, because that's what he, is, they tend to act irrational. They tend to behave in a way that comes off as crazy because you playing with them. And nobody likes and or wants to be played with. So she would react. And eventually he got tired of her reactions to his manipulative behavior, whether it was cheating, not coming back to her, in a reasonable time. Where were you? What was you doing? Why you ain't answer the phone for me? Blah, blah, blah. And he would give his manipulating responses, and she just didn't take kindly to it. So next thing you know, she's acting a fool. Okay, we're done with that. So hey, I'm moving with little things, whatever amount of things I did have here. I'm going to go ahead and take them on up out of here. And oh hey Shakira, you think I could use your porch as a storage spot? $50 a month. And for whatever reason, I obliged, and that was the way that he got it in. So once he got in there, it just opened up the door to us pretty much having sex again. And then next thing you know, he's spending the night. And then next thing you know, he slowly moved right on in. All of his things came off the porch and came into the bedroom. And now he lives here. So just like I thought I was getting away from him, stacked up my bread, got a new crib, did it all by myself from the muscle, he just, snaked his way right on back in. Like, oh, okay, thanks. Thanks for going ahead and, hooking this up. You decent. I know. Let me in. Now let me back in. And I did. And this is what I don't want y'all to do. I want y'all to learn from my mistakes and not go down that road. I would love for my podcast to be watched by, every time I make a post, I post one of these videos that asks, is this made for kids? And I guess you can kind of categorize kids as maybe 10 and under. Everybody above that needs to be watching this. And I'm just going to say it just like that. I don't sugarcoat anything in these videos. There's very little but some foul language. And anything that I'm speaking about when it comes to sex, they can find on YouTube or any other platform. They can run into it, and most of them know more than adults know at this point. So since you're in the know, let me put you all the way in the know so you know what to and not to do to end up in one of these toxic relationships. How about that? Get over here. Come here. I got something to tell you. Open your ears up. Because, these type of relationships really do a number on you. And as I sit here and speak about my story, it's like, wow, I can't believe I allowed that. I can't believe, I put myself through that, but I did. Because remember, he had just got back on his dean Islamically in 2014 that year. So I moved out at the end of the year. So by the middle of 2015 in June, I had taken my Shahada. Now, no, I was studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses before that happened. I was studying with them from about 2010 up until I took my Shahada, I had gotten to a space where I started to do research on Islam. I actually did research on Jehovah's Witnesses as well. Like, how did the religion come about? And, come to find out it's this white guy who, saw the errors in the Bible and its teachings and felt like, it has been altered. So he decided to create his own religion where and used and created the book that they study out of, which is the Bible for the most part, but it's called the New World Translation, is where he felt like he was translating what was actually written in the Bible and making a book where the lies and the errors that were in the Bible or the King James Version or whatever versions of the Bible that he felt like had holes in it, he repaired those holes in the New World Translation. So, that kind of opened up my eyes, and that made me feel like, is this, an appropriate way to serve God? Because honestly, while I was studying with them, I really felt like it was a good way to study the Bible, because for whatever reason, while attending church, I felt like church pulled on me emotionally, right? And so I will always find myself there, and whenever the pastor, the reverend was preaching, I felt like, how you get that feeling, oh, he's talking to me, like I was supposed to be here, and everything he's saying is relatable. It's so relatable, and it applies, and it would pull on my heartstrings and make me cry. And I just correlated that with God is talking to me through this human being. And not to say that wasn't what was occurring. It's just I would get poured into at the service, and then I would leave and kind of still didn't have the Bible instilled in me so that I could pull from it and use it throughout my life so I could live it in a way that was according to God's will. And the Jehovah's Witnesses, for they taught you the Bible. Like every time you went to the Kingdom Hall, the service was like, we literally was like, okay, we're picking up where we left off. Where were we? Okay, King James, whatever. We would go to that scripture and we would pick up and start reading it, and then they would break it down. Well, what's being interpreted here? What is And you would literally be learning it during the service. You didn't, unlike church, you would have to like go to Bible class after the service, before the service, or on another day of the week to go learn. And then I've done that, and I still didn't feel like I was gaining knowledge of the Bible and aka God's will, how I'm supposed to be living. I didn't really gain it from church, but the Jehovah's Witnesses, the way they taught it, I was gaining. I was like, I just was having a lot of epiphanies, and like, wow, that's what they meant by that, and that's how I'm supposed to do that, and so that's why that wasn't happening like that. Like, it just made sense to me, right? And then once I understood, the religion in its entirety and the founder of it, and how only 144,000 people or something said of that nature are going to make it to heaven out of the billions of people in the world, that averted my attention to Islam and allowed me to zoom in on the aspects of Islam more so, because that kind of like threw me off track. I was like, is that right? Only 144,000? Like, is that something I can get behind? Is this just a man-made religion? Even though I guess all religions technically are. A man wrote it. They all say they got it from God. Even the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, went in a cave and received the Quran from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he wrote it down in the Quran and said, this is what God told me to write, right? But you still wrote it, because he was illiterate. He couldn't write, he couldn't read, he didn't know anything, but yet he's obtaining this knowledge, but he's in a cave. Nobody witnessed him in this cave to know if he indeed got that information from Allah, or if he meditated and connected to the higher power, which I believe is very possible. and obtained the knowledge, which I believe happened in the first place. You know what I'm saying? You went to God, you sat in meditation, asked him for guidance. Like, I need to guide these people. They are lost. They are this, they are that. And I, help, use me to bring the masses to you because they need you. So it was something I felt like I could get behind. And it's supposed to be an extension of the Bible, because wasn't nobody going to tell me that the Bible, what was written in the Bible, wasn't for mankind. If you're going to try to debunk the Bible and say, no, that religion is false and it means nothing, come over here and worship, this God, or practice this. There's no way I would have went in that direction. But the fact that somewhere in the Bible it says there's going to be another prophet, there's going to be another somebody who's going to bring you this information, I went on ahead, and that's supposed to be the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So I went on ahead and adopted that religion as my own. So with that being said, I took my Shahada in June, and I believe sometime that summer is when the ex of his decided to seek her revenge, and she did so by stealing his vehicle. And as I'm telling this story, I feel like I told it in another episode, so I'm gonna briefly touch on it, because I don't want to keep repeating myself, but at the same time, some people may not have, and they might not come across that episode, so I don't mind repeating this story, just to let it be known how a woman scorned by a manipulator will overly react, or react in a way that is just kind of just out of control, or out of the norm of how most people would act if they were hurt by a lover, if you will. So she had one of his safe boxes at her house, which had the spare key to his vehicle in that safe box, and she decided to take that key and steal his car. Now, the way she went about it, she ended up breaking one of the back windows, and I guess to make it seem like it was a robbery, but it was her just pretty much opening up the door and going in the car. She went in there and she stole his car, and then within the week, because the spare key to my vehicle was in his glove compartment, she was able to go in there and say, wait, I think his wife has an expedition. I think this is let's go around there and just see if it works. Lo and behold, it happened. Within that time, I wasn't sure he didn't know who stole his car, or at least that's what he told me. And I wasn't aware either, but my sister was at my house, and she had a reputation for being a thief, and she also couldn't stand my ex-husband, my narc. So she was blamed. She was blamed, and I didn't want to blame her. That wasn't my intention. But as time went on, and the way that she reacted to, the whole situation, calling me dumb, that's what we get, all of this and that, it just kind of raised the eyebrow and made me feel like, did she have something to do with it? I'm not sure. And, the day before my vehicle went missing, we encountered each other at my grandmom's house, and she tried to, play Froggy and Leap and act like she wanted to go toe to toe with me, but my grandmom intervened, and neither one of us was about to disrespect our grandmom or her house. So we decided to back off, and she went outside, came back in, and was like, you lucky your vehicle not outside. And I'm like, so wait, you was looking for my car to do what to it, or do what with it? Like, what does that mean? And then the next morning I go to get in it and it's gone. Oh, snap. Did you take my vehicle? So, now I'm accusing you. Now I'm not sure. And that bothered her and hurt her to her core. Like, no way do you think I would ever do anything like that to you. But you're a stupid B, and I that's what you get, dummy. As she still talks to me like this. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. But it wasn't until she said, we had a conversation, and it was like, she actually told me she hated me. She's, y'all, because me and my sister really have a very, very close, unbreakable bond. We really do. Like, this girl done pulled the gun out on me and, everything. And nothing, you know, tears that bond apart and make me feel like, or either one of us feel like, I'm never talking to her again. I never want to, be around her and her company. None of the above. It's just like, that's my sister. We went through something real quick and we gonna get over it like we always do. It's unhealthy. Ain't nothing good about it, but we had traumatic lives growing up. Both our dads were in jail long term, so we had stepdads, and even though they loved and cared about us, we still got some type of abandonment issues. And so we went through what we went through, right? Long story short, she was just like, I hate you. I hate you with a passion, is what she told me. And when I tell y'all that hurt, that hit my soul, I was like, no, not my baby sis. Like, no way. Or my little sis, because my dad ended up having the second generation of kids. So I do have baby sisters. But I'm like, no way. And when she said that, that's when I knew it wasn't her. My sister did not take our vehicles. It was not her. And I took it back, and I'm blowing her up like, sis, answer the phone. I'm sorry that I ever accused you. I'll never accuse you of nothing of that nature ever again. And being as though we just went through what we went through, I believe that you would never actually do anything like that to me for me to ever want or feel like I need to accuse you. You know what I'm saying? So that pretty much, solved a issue that was no longer ever an issue ever again, right? So, yeah, she stole both our vehicles. I ended up leveling up and getting a better one. I mean, this one literally had like heated seats. It had like the little in the side view mirror. The light, flickered when the left signal and the right signal was on, and heated steering wheel. It was an Expedition. It was the same, I believe, make and model, but it was like the next year was an upgraded version of it. So it was like, thank you for selling my vehicle, because now I have an even better one. But we ended up finding it on this block. We found both our cars. We were recovered, actually. I guess the license plate wasn't hers. Like, how long can you ride around with something that don't belong to you? We made a police report, so I guess they were looking for it. So lo and behold, the cops were like, hey, we found your car, here it is, blah blah blah. So we just turned it back into the dealership, and took it from there. So we end up seeing the little heifer, the young female, and in the supermarket, in the grocery store. And she thought that, she spoke to my kids. I allowed that. And then she thought she was going to speak to my husband at the time. And I refused to allow it. And that pissed her off. And, that's when she created this fake account. And as she was sending me pictures and videos out of my phone, because she hacked my Google account, and she also said, oh, did he tell you I stole y'all cars? So now I'm looking at him like, what? And it's like, how long did you know that it was her? How long have you known that she was the one and you just didn't tell me? Are you kidding me? I just felt so betrayed. And the betrayal just doesn't stop there. It just doesn't stop there. 2015, as I think about it, was a doozy of a year. He wiggled his way back in. I did take my shahada. It was like, dang, I just learned the religion I've been practicing since 2010 is maybe, a little more man-made than than I like to, partake in. I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way. It bothered me. How can I explain it? For it to be like a narrow view on life, like, to just say a certain amount would make it back to God, or, if it was like, say for example, a teenager that's a Jehovah's Witness was to get pregnant Like they would kick her out the Kingdom Hall. She would be shunned. She would be shunned. Like, oh no, not only did you have that baby out of wedlock, you're a child. What are you doing? You can't be a part of this, godly circle while partaking in the devil's word. No, we're not doing that. So it just was things like that rubbed me the wrong way, that made me say, yeah, nah. Thank y'all. The people there were awesome. I formed great relationships with Jehovah Witnesses. They are beautiful people. Unlike even the churchgoers, where there are some backstabbing, conniving, vindictive, deceitful folks that come up in and out of church. I'm going to say it just like that. But the Jehovah Witnesses, I didn't have an experience like that with them. I didn't. And so, coming over to Islam, it was probably worse than the churchgoers. So I mean, because I remember one time when I wasn't garbed up at all. I think I had my kimar facing the other direction, tied up, and I salammed this woman who was fully garbed. She had on a niqab, the overgarment, the whole nine. And when I, gave her the greeting, assalamu alaikum, she was like, "Why you greeting me? Why you not Muslim?" I'm like, but I am though. No, you're not. No, you're not. Says, why you got close on me, kept asking me, why you greet me? Like she wanted to beat me up. Like, how dare I insult her by giving her the salams when I knew darn well I was not Muslim. You hear me? I said, oh, wow. And when I tell you that bothered me, that shook me to my core, and I was just like, see, this is what they mean by the religion is perfect, but the people aren't. But the people are the ones who are partaking in the religion, and I gotta encounter and deal with you, and I don't want to, and I don't have to, because then that creates guilt and shame within me. Oh, I'm not allowed to not be garbed. You're not allowed to walk around a certain way if you're a part of this faith. And that's what I mean by living in a box or a cage. You have to walk in this straight line, and if you veer out of that line at all, you're shunned. You're felt like you're garbage on the bottom of somebody's shoe. You're not worthy. You're no longer worthy in God's eyes to be, salammed. Nah. No disrespect to nobody. Because like I said, the religion itself is a beautiful religion. I will forever, practice a lot of the ways of the Islamic culture, for sure. Like eating with your right hand and wiping yourself with the left. Why would you want to intertwine those? So I'm very specific with not wiping my behind with the fingers that I'm going to suck on. That's nasty. Because even when you wash your hands as a nurse, I have, under a blue light, we've washed our hands with antibacterial soap. And when you put it back under that light after 20, 30 seconds, you can still see bacteria on the hands. It is not 100% taken off. It's just not. So even having that knowledge and then coming into Islam and then learning that culture, that way of life, I was like, wow, that's a good one right there. That's forever with me. I'm gonna practice that forever. The Ramadan is approaching. It's next month. I will be fasting. Do you know the health benefits of fasting for the body? And for the sake of God, who I am still very much so connected to 100,000%, just because I'm not garbing up, just because I'm not Islamically praying Allahu Akbar and getting on my knees 5 times a day, you think I don't connect to God and talk to him and pray to him and worship him and thank him and all the things for everything that he constantly blesses me with? I take all my issues, problems, but take my gratitude, everything is fully connected there. I have my way of praising and worship and connecting to God. I don't have to do it in an Islamic way or a Christian way or in order to connect to God and still be worthy and loved and cared for and guided and protected and safe. He got me. God got me. Because he's definitely more than man. 100%. So, and that's just for me. That's me personally. Like I said, no disrespect to nobody else. I'm sure a lot can and will argue with that. Oh, you tripping. You can only get to God through Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. You can only get to God through Jesus, who died on the cross for our sins. To each their own. To each their own. And I can only pray that I'm not wrong in the way that I'm choosing to serve God, and that I do make it back to and or with him when I do, eventually die. I can only pray that that's the case, you know? So, yeah, by the end of 2015, that was the first time that my narc had traveled to his hometown of Nigeria. And when he went and had unprotected sex with one of his fellow Nigerian sisters, right? And upon returning, he very, irresponsibly gave me an STD. Here you go. I went and defiled our marriage because I was in a whole nother country, out of sight, out of mind you were. And I decided to partake in, you know, having sexual relations with somebody that wasn't you. Because, in true narc form, that's his right. Who gonna stop him? Who gonna check him? His marriage don't matter. No, what I want matters. Do you see all these fat asses walking around? Are you mad? Am I just not supposed to touch one and bury my face in it and then my penis next? You must be out of your mind. No, I'm going to partake. And use protection for what? It's not like I got a wife I'm going back home to. Oh, wait, I do. But I done burnt her so many times. I done did her dirty so many times. I mean, and she stayed with me, or she let me back in. I would never stay. I will always leave upon something that detrimental occurring throughout the marriage. But I one way or another, I let them right on back in. Come on, honey, come here. So, I can only imagine that he thought or felt like, she'll let me back. She'll get over it. She'll get over it. So we were married from '08 up until that time. I found out that I had an STD in February. He came back. He went from, I believe, December to January. And the beginning of February, I found out that I had an STD. So who knows how long I had it before the symptoms started to present themselves that made me say, hey, I need to go to the doctors. Because the whole time you were gone, I didn't have sex with anyone. I waited for my husband to return. And of course, as soon as you got back, it's like, come here. And boom, there's that good old STD. So by March, I filed for divorce. Yeah, by March, it was like, okay, it's over, we done. You don't respect me. You do not respect this marriage. And there's no way I'm going to stay in it. I keep giving you chance after chance, and you just keep abusing it and not giving two shits about me and, my health. So we're going to end it here. So yeah, I filed for divorce in March. I'm pretty sure I made him leave. I asked him to leave, or did I pack up and move to my grandma's again? Because where were we staying? No, because I was in that house for 6 years. So yes, we're only, I just moved in there in September 2015. So, 2014. So here we are, March 2016. Yeah, you gotta go. You gotta go. So I believe he left. Yup, he left. And then, I really feel like no more than 6 to 8 months will go by before we end up having sex again. Because unlike him, I don't go run and jump in the sack with the first person that's in my face. And then after, being given STDs, the last thing you want is for any man to touch you. Like, get away from me. Get away from me. Don't touch me. Don't look at me. Don't breathe on me. I don't want no penis. None of it. It's all y'all dirty, and y'all don't care about us, and y'all sling them damn things all around with any and everybody, and it's no, I don't want it. Get out of here. So that's how I would be. And then eventually, once, if I guess some part of him knew, like, she ain't doing nothing with nobody else. Let me go back and see if I can get it back. Let me go. So, and at that time we had 4 kids. So that's my baby mom. And most men, especially narcs, feel like they can always go back to the mother of their children. Like, we have a bond there. Talking about unbreakable bonds, we have a bond there. So you gonna let me back in. You gonna let me back in. one way or another. And my biological father was on his way out of jail 2017, so he decided to start working on him to get his way back in with me. Because at this point, I mean, over time, I've been telling my dad, of all the abuse and disrespect that this man has been inflicting upon me. And he, created his opinion of him as somebody with a black heart. And at that time, I still didn't know what narcissism was, or manipulation even. I didn't even really know what manipulation was. I knew of the word. I didn't understand it, which is why I'm making it my personal business to break this thing down to the finest matter the way that I am while telling my life story. Because a lot of us are ignorant to it, are in the dark about what manipulation actually is and what it looks like. And I don't want us to be in the dark. I want everybody to be in the know. So, yeah, he started working on him from there, and ended up getting his way back in. And remember, I took my Shahada June 2015, so now I'm Muslim. And the first thing everybody asked upon our divorce, so I filed for divorce in March. We were divorced by September, but we probably started having sex again that summer, or maybe around the divorce time. Like, you know what I mean? October, November. Eventually, I think, this is why I gotta write my book. I gotta really sit down and piece together the puzzle of my life with this narc, because it was a doozy. It was something else. But I'm a really take it month by month and really try to take all the files out the file cabinet and line them up and write my story. Y'all can buy the book and really learn about my experience with my narc, and hopes that you don't experience the same fate. So, this is where I'm going to leave this part of my story. We were divorced that September, but he started writing my dad letters, or if my dad would call, he would, answer the phone, and just work on him with talking to him like that, with just trying to get in his good graces, which ended up working, clearly, because we did indeed get remarried in 2017. So I will pick up the story from there. I would like to thank you all so very much for watching. Until next time, remember, you are guided, you are protected, and you are safe.